Hey everybody, how's it going? We are live. Sorry, no Michael Girardi song today. It's Tuesday, so we're running a little behind. That's kind of how we roll on Tuesdays. Shout out to everyone on the live stream listening right now. All 5 of you. Oh, Ben just had some water. Is that good water?
No, it's delicious water.
Oh, I sit corrected.
It's not good water. It's so good.
All right, your Ben Joravsky show for Tuesday, July 28th is just moments away. But before we do this, we got to thank the following unions for sponsoring our program. Frank, what up, Frank, on the live stream chat? Says something about, Ben doesn't know that song, Frank. Okay.
How do you know? Now, how do you? I may know that song.
Okay, all right.
Was it after 1979?
I believe so.
Oh, yeah, no, probably don't know it. Yeah, you're right. Good point.
Today's show and every Ben Joravsky show is brought to you in part by the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, and our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hey, if you're listening to this and you own a business or you're like a bigwig in the union, we'd love to have you as a sponsor. Ben's reading the paper. I guess.
Folding the paper.
There we go. All right, I'm trying to convince these people to sponsor our show. Stop doing that. All right, if you own a business or you're in a union and you want to be a sponsor of this program, well, we'd love to have you, all right? I can make a commercial. Ben can do a live read. I don't know. We can make a song. Who knows? Whatever your brain wants, we can probably come up with. Reach out to Tracy Bame and contact someone at the Chicago Sun-Times. They would love to talk with you. All right, your Ben Joravsky show for Tuesday, July 28th starts now. It is Tuesday, July 28th, and live from Ben's attic and my apartment, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's the return of the director of the Black Harvest Film Festival, Sergio Mims. And now your host, director of nothing, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here, calling this Back Pages Tuesday. And here's why. Great week. You have a good weekend, D?
Yes, I actually did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow, you didn't know that?
No, you're standing up. I can see your shirt. Oh, by the way, just so everybody knows, I am in my attic and Dennis is at his apartment, but I can watch him on the TV. What did you do again? I forget.
I went to a cemetery, the cemetery where Shel Silverstein was buried. It was awesome.
Yeah, the great Shel Silverstein, Chicago's finest poet, or one of them. He wrote many great songs and many great poems. And Dennis and Danny Pogoshelski went to the cemetery together. We're going to bring Danny on one of these days to talk about the tour. So he can give like a virtual tour. Dennis, similar to the one that Dennis got. Do you remember the other people that were buried in that cemetery, D?
Yeah, sort of. I just knew Shel Silverstein, and I just pretended like I knew all the other ones that Dan was talking about. He's so smart. I am not.
Okay, that's not true.
Jack Ruby?
Yeah, the great. Well, I hesitate to call him the great Jack Ruby, but Jack Ruby, the man who killed Lee Harvey Oswald, is also buried in that cemetery. I can go on and on about Jack Ruby, but I'll hold off. Anyway, we're going to bring Danny on to talk about that, the cemetery and some of the Chicago history. Young Daniel knows a lot about Chicago history, anyway, my good friend Josh and his son Ethan and his nephew Will stopped by. I want to say thank you, Josh, for stopping by. That was part of my weekend. I sat out in the backyard, social distancing, and chatted about this, that, and the other thing.
6 feet.
6 feet, and we weren't wearing masks because it was like 10 feet. Okay,
show's over. I'm done.
Everybody was safe and sound, and it was a pleasure talking to Josh, Will, and Ethan. And I'm happy to say, young Ethan was raised the right way. His favorite Quentin Tarantino movie, Jackie Brown. Speaking of Jackie Brown, I saw for the 452nd time Soul Men, which is definitely in my top 50 movies of all time. I don't know if you ever saw that, D. Bernie Mac. I think it's Bernie Mac's last movie. and it made me feel so sad because I love Bernie Mac. He's so good in this movie with Samuel Jackson. That's the Jackie Brown connection. Great movie. Soul Men. It got lousy reviews when it came out. I don't understand why. I saw it when it came out, and I rented it once and watched it again. Great flick. Soul Men made my weekend. Anyway, I woke up to discover changes at the Tribune, the Chicago Tribune, involving our favorite columnist, jump shot, Johnny Cass. One more time, millennials. One more time, D. I'm going to explain it for our millennial listeners. There's a Johnny Cass, who's a right-wing columnist for the Chicago Tribune, and then there's a Johnny Cash, who's one of the greatest singers of all time, right, D? Johnny right. Cash. Millennials, I give you, all right, a lot of millennials, you don't pay attention to the newspapers, so you may not know a columnist. So many people, like millennials, when they hear Ben Joravsky, who's that? D, I've gotten used to it, okay? You know what I mean? There is no ego in this game. Who's that? It's like a common refrain. Never heard of him. So I was shocked one time. I was in a journalism class. This is a journalism class, D. All right, this is about 10 years. No, this is more than 10. I was talking to a group of journalism students. All right, and they all pretended like they knew me because the journalism teacher had invited me to the class. So they all had to pretend. And I think as an assignment, they had to read me.
Well, I'm sure there were one or two hippies in that class.
You're probably right. The guy smoking the reefer, he's the one who heard of me. I just made reference to the Chicago Tribune. Nobody knew who John Cass was. I was stunned. John Cass occupied page 2. We'll get to this. One of the most important spots in the newspaper, when newspapers were newspapers, page 2, you get your newspaper. Follow me on this, millennials. Here, I will demonstrate. You get your newspaper. You look at the front page. There's all this news. As deadline nears, GOP unveils plan. All right, that's news. Then you turn to page 2, and that's where Mike Royko. Oh God, Mike. Suddenly, young people are like, who? I never heard of him. Anyway,
I saw him at that cemetery too. Well, I didn't see him, but you know what I mean.
Yes, he's buried at that cemetery as well. Mike Royko, one of perhaps the greatest newspaper columnist in the history of newspaper columns. There, I said it, D. Okay? Yeah, I said it. Write the letters to me if you have complaints. Like anybody's going to weigh in on that one. It's not like saying, this is the greatest. Billy Bob is the greatest Nirvana song of all time. I just made up Billy Bob. I don't know if that's a Nirvana song. Anyway, so...
wait, we got an email here from the on the Ben Joravsky Show email. Let me look here. From Jay Cass. Huh. He's upset with you that you said that about Mike Royko.
Oh, right. He thinks he's the greatest. Sorry, John Cass. You're no Mike Royko. And neither am I. There was only one Royko. Anyway. All right, so glad I was able to distinguish Johnny Cash, who sang A Boy Named Sue, which was written by Shel Silverstein, from Johnny Cass, who is a Chicago Tribune columnist and has been for many, many years. He is of the right-wing persuasion, far, far right. He doesn't literally wear the MAGA hat, but he clearly loves Trump and is of the Trump supporting persuasion. Reading John Cass is like reading Breitbart. All right. So many of my liberal friends, they'll tell me, Ben, I don't read him. I haven't read him in years. And they'll tell me that all the time, but I read him. He's in there 4 days a week. So
that sounded a lot like Jim Coogan, by the way, that impression you did.
Okay, that's not my Jim Coogan impression. By the way, I've already had like 3 emails or text messages with Jim Coogan. He's following the William Barr testimony that's going in down in Congress. We'll probably bring him back to talk about it in a couple of weeks. Our ace attorney friend at the Ben Joravsky Show. Anyway, back to John Cass. I read him because I have an open mind, and I think maybe, just maybe he might convince me with the logic, his persuasive talents. But no, it hasn't really happened. He's so far right. I can't believe he hasn't fallen off the earth. Every now and then he writes an article that I find completely and totally and utterly offensive, like the one a few weeks ago where he somehow or other denigrated Martin Luther King, in my opinion. But by and large, I just let him go. Last Wednesday was one that was really hard to let go. He wrote a column where he committed a rare twofer. Let me explain that, D. One for is where you managed to insult just one ethnic group, In this column, he's insulted 2 ethnic groups. He insulted Jewish Americans and Black Americans. How did he do that? I'll tell you how he did that. He wrote a column in which he essentially said that Kim Fox, a Black woman, is a puppet to George Soros, a Jewish man. And in doing so, he committed this alt-right trope that somehow or other, George Soros, this fabulously wealthy hedge fund dude who gives to liberal causes, is secretly controlling like absolutely everything. And so this goes back, this is rooted in this ancient anti-Semitic notion that behind the scenes, there's the evil cabal of Jewish men running everything. When the column came out, he was roundly criticized. The ADL criticized him. The Forder, which is a Jewish newspaper, criticized him. Many readers criticized him. And to their everlasting credit, I want to give a lot of love and shout out to my brothers and sisters at the Tribune Guild. Charlie Johnson was on the show last week. They criticized him. That showed a lot of guts, in my humble opinion, that the reporters, the other columnists, they banded together and they let management know how offended they were by that column. It was a very offensive column. And the Tribune should have apologized for it, or the Tribune should have at least have confronted the issues and they tried to explain it. But no, it was silence until today, D. And then in today, there was a editor's note on page 2. So instead of a column on page 2, there's an editor's note. And I'm saying that, I go, uh-oh, this looks like the Tribune's version of a clarification. It was written by Colin McMahon, who's the editor-in-chief of the Chicago Tribune. Colin McMahon weighing in, no mention of John Cass's column, no mention of the anti-Semitic trope, no mention of insulting Kim Fox by making her out to be a puppet of George Soros, no mention of any of that at all. Instead, well, hate to say this, Tribune readers, he kind of threw you under the bus. He basically said that they are moving John Cass from page 2 to the editorial pages, to what Bob Dylan might call the back pages, okay? And he said it, they're doing this because you, the reader, are a little confused. Let me read to you Colin McMahon's explanation in today's Chicago Tribune. Dear reader, starting later this week, we're making some changes in the layout of the paper to make clearer what is news writing, what is news reporting, and is opinion writing. We are moving Chicago Tribune columnists and other staffers who write opinion pieces to a shared page that will appear adjacent to the editorial pages in the back of the first section.
Oh, way to go, Cass.
He screwed up, man. Everybody's got to go to the back pages now. By the way, Back Pages is a song by Bob Dylan, which I will now sing. I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now. I guarantee you, D, the only person at the Tribune who knows that reference is Eric Zorn, because he plays the guitar. Oh, Ben, I love that song by Dylan. Anyway, here we go.
Our interviews are sounding pretty good, huh, Zorn?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Ever since we did the Google Meet, Eric is a good friend of the show. He's been on the show a couple times, but he wrote sent me an email. Go, Ben, the quality of your sound sucks. Let's clean it up. Did you hear this interview I did? And then he sends me an interview he did with some station. I can't remember the station.
It was WCPT 820.
Is that the station that fired me?
Yeah, it is actually.
Okay. Anyway, it was very clear. It was so clear. But you know what, D? Sometimes you got to learn, okay? So, he irritated me that he sent me an interview with WCPT. But it was the point of the email was that he was looking out for our show, D, okay?
You're right.
So we learned as a team, Dennis and I, sat down and figured out how can we make our sound better. Actually, that's not how it happened at all. But anyway, somehow or other, we figured it out, and our sound sounds great.
And by the way, shout out to Kyle on the live stream chat. He says, as a millennial, I've learned how to distinguish between Johnny Cash and John Cass. Johnny Cash has talent, and John Cass, well, has none.
Oh, who said that?
Kyle.
Kyle, man, takedown. As the kids would say, treated. Remember that day? All the kids would go, treated. And sometimes when they really want to up it, trick or treated. That was my favorite. Trick or treat. But for about 3 years, I was going around going, trick or treated. People are like, Ben, that is so 2002. Okay, we're now in 2009. Could you update it, please? Thank you. Anyway, back to Colin McMahon, the editor-in-chief, who thinks you're really stupid, Tribune readers. Let me just continue the reading, okay? They're moving everybody to the back pages. Thanks, Cass. Cass, got the soup all over his shirt and spilled it on the floor. So everybody's moving it. Listen to this, D. They got Rex Hupke, that's my guy. He's funny as all hell.
Yeah,
he's in the back pages. Mary Schmid, she's a Pulitzer Prize winner. She's in the back pages, all right? Heidi Stevens, very insightful, smart editor. She's in the back. They didn't do anything wrong. It was Cass who wrote the anti-Semitic trope.
Way to piss in the punch bowl, Cass.
And then, Darlene Glanton. She's a superstar. You watch. That woman is going to be a superstar columnist in Chicago. They put her in the back. She didn't do anything wrong. Anyway, back to this really enlightening letter from Colin McMahon. D. Okay, this move is not directed at any single column or single columnist. Got that, Tribune readers? Nor is it a decision taken lightly or made hastily. No, like he didn't just make it overnight. We've been working on this structure and on a prototype page for months. Months? It takes you months to figure this thing out? I don't believe it, D. Sorry, not believing it. When you and I changed to Google Meet, did we work for months on it?
No.
Did we sit at a coffee shop and go, let's figure this out. The sound is bad. We got a criticism from Eric Zorn. It's going to take us months to figure this thing out. D, I want you to do a study. I want you to go online and find all the different prototypes that you can have. Got it, boss. Could you imagine if you called me boss? Got it, boss. Let me tell you, folks, it's the other way around on this show. Anyway, no. Dennis one day called me up and go, this Google Meet sounds really good. And I go, let's go with it. I got a funny feeling that's kind of what happened at the Tribune when the shit hit the fan with John Cass's column last week. They go, we got to do something. So we're going to throw Darlene Glanton and we're going to throw Mary Schmid and Rex Hupke and Heidi Stevens. Sorry, guys, you're going to the back pages just like Cass. Anyway. I'm going back to this editor-in-chief, okay, D? An important editor's note to the readers. And let me just say this, Colin McMahon. I'm a very important Tribune reader. I'm not just some ordinary millennial reading online. I am a home subscriber, the most precious Tribune reader of all. Every day I get a copy. Like this one of the Tribune. I'm propping up the whole freaking operation. So you're welcome, Colin McMahon. Anyway, back to this letter. They've been working on this structure for months, D. Months. God, they're exhausted. All right, guys, you can take a break. You've been working on this prototype for months. Take a lunch break, all right? Have a sandwich. The decision is based on a lot of factors. Chief among them, concerns raised by you, our most loyal subscribers. In letters, surveys, on social media, and through firsthand exchanges, readers tell us the Chicago Tribune has been less than clear about what is news reporting and what is opinion writing. Oh my God, I cannot take this anymore. I'm a loyal subscriber and have been so since the 80s. I have never complained. I understand the difference. I think most Tribune readers understand the difference between opinion writing and news writing. It is not the location of what John Cass wrote that was objectionable. It is what John Cass wrote that was objectionable. If you move anti-Semitic tropes and insulting articles about black politicians to the op-ed page, to the back pages, you don't make them any less objectionable or offensive or anti-Semitic. You just have moved the location. What? You think your readers are like, well, I could tolerate an anti-Semitic trope if it's in the back pages, but I'm sorry, if it's on page 2, I can't take it. Anyway, he goes on and on and on about the changes and how much he loves us and appreciates us and blah, blah, blah. Man, the tribute is funny, man. It's sort of like Lori Lightfoot. And I'm not comparing, okay? Uh-oh, here we go. I am not comparing John Cass to Christopher Columbus, okay? All right? Just getting that out there now. I'm just saying that the Tribune moving all of the columnists who didn't do anything wrong. I'm just going to say this one more time. Rex Hupke did nothing wrong. Okay? Why are you moving him to the back pages? Oh, man, our readers are really confused. You know, it's kind of funny. I'm usually the guy insulting Chicagoans. You know I've been known to do that. Whenever there's an election and I disagree with the Chicagoans, I have a tendency. I must make this confession, D. I have a tendency of insulting Chicagoans because I disagree with them. I know that's not fair, Chicagoans, and I apologize. I've apologized many times. I believe I may have called you stupid and dumb, okay? So coming from me, this is quite a statement, but I believe Chicago Tribune readers are far more intelligent than the editors give them credit for, and they know the difference between opinion and news. Anyway, so they're going to move everything to the back pages, and Johnny Cass is going there, but they are no. This is why they're like Lori Lightfoot. So Lori Lightfoot moved the Columbus statues, and she moved the Columbus statues quite clearly. This is just me reading between the lines. We're going to talk about this in a while later, because the protesters were gathering there, and the counter protesters were gathering there, and there probably was going to be violence. So, maybe a good idea just to get rid of the statues and, I don't know, take away the magnet that draws the violence. I thought it was a very astute, smart move, but you can't admit it. You can't say, well, I'm doing that because of the protesters, because that would give the protesters too much credit. Like, well, I'm not doing something because somebody protested. I'm just doing something because I think it's a good idea. And that's just kind of that. You know what I'm saying, D? All right. Well, we got to show that, we're realize that a lot of people were offended by Johnny Cass and his George Soros obsessions, but we don't want to admit that upset readers would cause us to do anything that would change our policies. So we're going to pretend that it's like, I don't know, Rex Hupke's fault. Anyway, listen, John Cass.
You're on fire today, dude. Calm down.
I'm just going to say one thing, man. My heart goes out to you to a certain degree, because I too, I know what it's like to get some people upset. I got fired, man. Right, D? What did I get fired for? Talking about Tim. I don't even know why they just said, come here, son. Beat it. Leave. Don't let that door hit you on the way out. So I know what it's like, but look on the bright side, man. At least you still have a job. We got a great show today. Everybody, yes, Sergio Mims, the creator of the Black Harvest Film Festival. Oh, man, he's ready to talk VP. He's ready to talk Trump. He's ready to talk Columbus statue. Sergio will talk about it. Nothing's off limit with Sergio Mims. So we may ask him about the new state of affairs at the Chicago Tribune. I doubt that Sergio Mims is a subscriber to Tribune. The only other home subscriber I know to the Chicago Tribune, D, is young Kenneth Davis. That's it. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that a huge statement?
Hey, we haven't heard that Ken Davis impression in a while. Let's hear it. Not one word said, but man, it sounds just like him.
But it's different than Mike Flannery. Willie Wilson.
Boy, that one and only time we had Flannery on the show was awesome, huh?
Yeah, it was great, man. It was back in the old days at the Bright One.
Yeah.
When we were in our beloved little studio. Flannery was nice enough to come in. He sat down, and it was awesome.
Hey, he's not coming back after that impression.
No, that's not Flannery. It will come back, all right? He just I kind of agree with Eric Zorn about the quality of the site. Get in there, get the Google Meet, I'll come back. Okay.
Have you heard of Clean Feed?
Clean Feed. Oh, man, we looked in the Clean Feed. That's so complicated. Good. Dennis was a millennial. Like, this stuff is Mama's milk to him. Oh, yeah.
Mama's milk.
Even Dennis couldn't figure out clean. He goes, Ben, I'm raising the flag on clean feed. So we found Google Meet. And just want to thank Google one more time, I'm like, now I really am turning into a millennial. Millennials love their Gmail accounts. You ever notice that, D?
Today's show brought to you by Google.
Wouldn't that be great if we get some money from Google? Anyway, Sergio Mims, I know he's got a lot of opinion, but yeah, I think Kenny D may be the only. Wow, what a staggering. I'm trying to think, D. Everybody I know is, even the baby boomers are now just reading it on their phones, getting it for free as much as they can. Yeah, I still subscribe. Proud of it. Home subscription. By the way, there's a lot of good stuff in the Tribune. Charlie Johnson, we did a great interview with him. We dropped it on Monday. Isn't that correct, D?
You can download it right now. Chicago Sun-Times, Chicago Reader websites, wherever else you download your favorite podcast. A great interview. He was all business, one Charlie Johnson.
Yes, he was. He was all business. All right, D. Enough on that. Sergio Mims will be our guest. We'll bring him on real soon. But before we do that, the young man from Alton, the man back home in Alton that they call Dr. Doobie with the news.
Hey, guys, what's up? Ben's the only person who calls me that. All right, let's find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
The enemy is you.
Who, me? What'd I do to you? I wear a mask. All right. No public events scheduled for the governor this Tuesday, but he was a busy boy on Monday. First, in Quincy, Illinois, while giving a press briefing, Governor Pritzker was asked about his 5-phase strategy to safely reopen Illinois.
Let's begin with phase one.
Not funny, JB. Not funny. We're not going back to phase one. And again, he was asked about those pesky people who opposed the governor's pandemic planning. The governor responded by saying the same thing that he said last week. He said, quote, "Our message to those folks is that this is not a political virus. It's not a red state virus or a blue state virus. It's not something made up by somebody for political purposes. This virus attacks anybody. We just have to figure out how to live with it to make sure the fewest number of people get sick." All right, like I said, you've heard all this before. Nothing new from the governor. But Governor Pritzker did give us his humble opinion on when this will all end and when we will go back to the old normal. And my God, for the sake of our sanity, I hope he's wrong. In response to wearing masks and socially distancing and having stupid Zoom meetings every day. What's that noise? Ben, you there?
The train? Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Train?
It's got all kinds of weird noises going on there. All right.
No, just the train. Just the same old noises. Train.
All right. In response to wearing masks and socially distancing and having stupid Zoom meetings every day, Pritzker said, quote, "We don't have to do this forever. You've seen there's progress on vaccines and treatments. And we're not there yet. We're not there yet. And frankly, we're not going to be there until 2021, in my humble opinion." The governor continued, "I'm not a doctor." Hey, that's my line. But
wait, did he actually say that?
Yeah, he said, "I'm not a doctor."
I'm not a doctor?
Yeah, he said, "I'm not."
Did he also say, "Don't call me Dr. Doobie"?
No.
Okay.
He said, "I'm not a doctor, but that's why my observation is that we're not going to be able to take off the mask and go about everything we were doing 7-8 months ago for a few more months, maybe 6+ months." Ben Joravsky, what say you? And can you tolerate living in the, quote, new normal until the new year?
I think I have no choice. I agree with Governor Pritzker. Let me just say this. By and large, I'm a big fan of the way J.B. Pritzker has handled himself since the corona, or as they call it in Georgia, Rona. And you can't, I will take exception with some of the things he said. He goes, "You can't take off the mask." Well, actually, some people never put the mask on. Okay, so they still haven't put the mask on. And as whether it is a political virus, D, and this is, I would say there are some people who disagree with Governor Pritzker, and I am now going to quote somebody on this subject, okay? There was a fascinating article in the New York Times about a small town in Georgia that is opening the schools within the next few days outside of Atlanta, and many people in the town don't think that the coronavirus is a serious illness. I will now read to you from the article. An online petition created by 2 Jefferson High School seniors, the high school in this town is Jefferson, calling for a mandatory mask rule has garnered more than 600 signatures. But a competing petition demanding that masks remain a choice for students has attracted more than 200 signers, some of whom have left comments and underscore the political nature of the disagreement. And I will now read a comment from one of the bright young scholars at Jefferson High School. T, are you ready for this one?
Let's hear it.
And I will do it straight. I will not do it in my imagined high school voice. Quote, only liberals can get Rona, and I'm not a liberal. Trump 2020, no mask for me. D, did you know that high schoolers in Georgia were calling the coronavirus Rona?
I need to check in on my cousin to make sure he doesn't go to Georgia High School. That sounded a lot like one of my cousins.
Okay, now I'll do it like, only liberals can get Rona. I'm not a liberal. Look, Governor Pritzker, I know you bend over backwards to be tolerant of everybody that disagrees with you, but this is what you're up against, okay? Only liberals get. How does, I'm trying to figure out, how this person's mindset is working. They doesn't say if it's a he or a she or whatever, so let's just assume it's a he. How is his mind working that he thinks it only goes after liberals? It's does the virus go up to you and go, well, who did you vote for in 2016? I voted for Donald Trump. Oh, I'll leave you alone. I don't know. Only liberals can get Rona. And I am not a liberal. No mask for me. So there you go, D. That's part of the reason I think this virus isn't going anywhere until we get a vaccine for it, because of some of the great scholars and great thinkers like that young man or woman from Jefferson High School.
You learn something. You learn something new every day, guys. All right, more public briefings and more humble opinions. Governor J.B. Pritzker also said Monday that he is, quote, deeply concerned about the Illinois High School Association conducting sports activities this fall.
Does that mean that they're canceling the sports? Is that what he's deeply concerned? The next step?
Now, he's not a doctor, but he's, it's his humble opinion, but he's, he has a feeling.
You know what? That's a Beatles song. I got a feeling deep inside. Whoa, yeah. I've now done the Beatles and Bob Dylan in one show. How about that? Baby boomer.
And we still have listeners, so that's awesome. Thanks, guys, for still listening. That's awesome.
I'm kind of upset by that. My alma mater, as I say many times, is Evanston High School, and they have a pretty good basketball team. This year could have been their year. You know what I'm saying? And now if they cancel, my beloved Evanston Wildcats will not get an opportunity to win the state. Of course, the state isn't the state. Hey, Governor Pritzker, if you really want to rectify something with high school sports, let's take the 4 divisions in basketball and bring it back to 2. Hasn't been the same since it went from 2 to 4. All right, just throw that out there, D. I know that has nothing to do with anything. Continue with your news.
All right, new week, new updates on Madigan Gate. The time the mega utility company Commonwealth Edison confessed to allegedly paying $1.3 million in bribes to associates of Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan. Now, since this story broke, we've heard some interesting responses from our elected leaders here in Illinois. Okay, first, no surprise and not that interesting. Our friends of the conservative persuasion say get rid of the bastard, but a majority of our Democratic friends have been towing the line pretty well in their response to Madigan Gate. Democrats and progressives alike have been saying, actually, Ben, if you could remind us all, what have the majority of our Democratic elected leaders been saying again as far as Madigan Gate?
Yes. Thank you, Dee. This is one of my favorite topics. Towing the line is a very good way of putting it. Okay, let's just back up for a moment and tell everybody. Commonwealth Edison pled guilty to essentially trying to bribe Madigan by putting his friends and cronies on the payroll. They pled guilty to that. They stipulated exactly what they did in this agreement with the prosecutor, and they agreed to pay a $200 million fine. So it's just not like some, rootless allegation that's floating around there. No, they pled guilty to it. All right. So what the lawmakers are saying the Democratic lawmakers who are very concerned because on one hand, you don't want to look like you're not vigilant about potential corruption. And on the other hand, you don't want to say anything that'll offend Madigan if he survives this and is still a House Speaker. He controls absolutely everything, at least on the House side. Like he controls what office you get and whether you get a key to the restroom. And well, I don't know if he controls the key to the restroom, but I said it anyway. So what they do is they go, well, I'm very concerned about these news reports. Very concerned. If these allegations prove to be true, then I think the speaker will have to step down. I'm like, dude, they're not allegations. It's a confession by Commonwealth Edison. This is what Commonwealth Edison is paying $200 million for. All right, so it's not like some flimsy allegation. And if they're true, but it probably means that Madigan is in a lot of trouble, potential, I don't know, he could be prosecuted. So he'll be carted out of office. He won't be stepping down. So they're trying to dress up a cowardly response as though it were worthy of being put into Profiles in Courage, the John F. Kennedy book about courageous moves by legislators in the past. So they'll have to add a new chapter in Profiles in Courage because some guys, well, if it's true, you know. So anyway, I was like, guys, it's not really that courageous of a statement that you're making there. Just wanted to point that out, Dee.
Well, it took a week, but finally, we have a Democrat saying in public what the rest of them are saying in private. Step down! Resign, bro! Without the cushiony, if these allegations are true part. Shout out to the Democratic State Senator Heather Staines. In a public statement, Staines said, quote, "The people of Illinois are facing unprecedented challenges, from the coronavirus threatening our health, our economy, and the education of our children to overdue demands for a more just and equitable society. At such a time, it is imperative that the people of our state can trust in their representatives and that those representatives can trust in their leaders. That is why Michael Madigan should resign as Speaker of the House." See, notice I didn't say that if these allegations are true part. She says that is why Michael Madigan should resign as Speaker of the House. She continues, the revelations contained in the U.S. Attorney's deferred prosecution agreement with Commonwealth Edison paint a sordid picture of bribery, influence, peddling, and insider dealing at the highest level. It shows how yesterday's political patronage system, severely restricted by the courts, has been transferred lock, stock, and barrel to a large corporation seeking the government's help. Not only does this undermine public trust in government, but it will cost Illinois ratepayers hundreds of millions of dollars. This follows on the heels of horrendous revelations of sexual harassment and bullying by those within the Speaker's office. It is clearly time for a change.
All right. First of all, congratulations for the strong statement, Heather Staines. I'm going to point out, Dee, that she is a state senator. Okay, just making that distinction. She's not in the House, so she's not directly connected to Michael Joseph Madigan. So presumably she could say that, and Senate President Don Harmon will still allow her to use the senator's restroom or have a nice office. Yeah, I'm very concerned about House members. They get in trouble. Boom, you're out in the parking lot. Let me just point this out. This is the part of the story that very rarely gets reported on. I talked about this last week. So in the statement that the the U.S. Attorney released, he talked about, he connected Madigan and Commonwealth Edison having this cozy arrangement where Commonwealth Edison put some of Madigan's cronies on the payroll. Madigan claims, by the way, that did not in any way affect him or influence him. He couldn't care less if they put his cronies on the payroll. That's his official position. So they connected, the U.S. Attorney did, putting those cronies on the payroll with the passage of certain bills. And I noted that many of those bills were supported by Republicans. And so I put this out in the Reader last week, and I believe this. I don't believe Commonwealth Edison had to cut a deal with Michael Joseph Madigan and hire his cronies to get legislators to back their legislation. I just believe that was influence, that was currying favor with Madigan just to curry favor with him. And I don't believe it was related to any one piece of legislation, because as long as I've been around Illinois, Commonwealth Edison has pretty much had its way with the General Assembly. And it didn't matter if Republicans were running the show or Democrats were running the show. It didn't matter if it was a Democratic governor or a Republican governor. In fact, it was Pat Quinn who vetoed the bill that Commonwealth Edison wanted passed. I think it was in 2011, and that was overridden. So, no, I'm mixing that. There were two vetoes. I think Bruce Rauner vetoed one as well. So I don't believe Commonwealth Edison had to curry favor with Madigan in that way to get the legislation passed. I just think it's sort of like downtown landlords hiring Madigan's firm for a property tax business. It's what they do to curry favor with the big guy. They think they're playing the game. That's how you play the game in Illinois. That's how you play the game in Chicago. Yeah, you hire the big guy's firm, and then you go around saying, my property tax lawyer is Michael Joseph Madigan. I'm the man. I know how to play the game, okay?
I can use this bathroom.
So I don't know, man. I personally believe that the problems of regulating utilities and determining what is a fair price to pay for utilities is far greater than Michael Joseph Madigan. And the influence of the big utility companies far exceeds Michael Madigan. Just throwing that out there, D. Just saying that. In other words, they didn't have to hire those cronies to get their legislation passed. That's just my opinion. One man's opinion, D.
Come on, Democrats of Illinois. Follow Heather Staines. Gazzardi, I'm looking at you. All right, on to some city news. No public events scheduled for our Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
We've said it's time to bring in the light, and it's sure shining on all of us tonight. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
But guys, don't worry. We have a lot of mayoral news to talk about. Late in the midnight hours of Friday, after a week of protests, Mayor Lightfoot ordered 2 of the 3 statues of Christopher Columbus in Chicago to be removed temporarily. We talked about this on Friday's show. Go download that at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Hey, you'll also hear a great interview with Alderman Ray Lopez. But Ben, remind us all again your thoughts on the removal of the Columbus statues.
Well, I supported it for many reasons, but I support it just from the aspect of, like I keep saying, you take away a magnet, so that drew protesters and counter protesters, so that it's a safety reason. But I also personally, and this is just me speaking, feel that we should really, I'm putting this as mildly as I can, strongly consider some of the people. I had this ferocious debate with my old friend Josh in the backyard about this. We should just strongly reconsider some of the people that we honor. So Christopher Columbus, guys, come on, Chicago. We can move past this. And, in the South with the Confederate statues, I mean, just try to think of what we're saying about our country when we're paying homage to Confederate generals and leaders of the Confederacy, et cetera, and so forth. So, yeah, I welcomed it on 2 fronts. And by the way, we're going to have an interview this Friday. I'm really looking forward to this, D. Hold on, I'm going to call it up, and I'm going to tell you right now who we're going to interview. Jonathan Bellow, who is a writer, freelance reporter, who's his specialty is to go to scenes of protest with his camera. He's a millennial, D, so he's got the phone and he captures it all. He puts it on Twitter. He was there all night. He saw the removal and he captured all the drama and the excitement. And he's coming on the show. He'll be on the show on Friday to talk about it. So that's a little advance promotion. How about that, D, huh?
That's a tease there, buddy.
Yeah, that's a tease. He used to work for Block Club. Now he's a freelance. He did some stuff. He wrote an article for Esquire, which was excellent. He wrote an article for Chicago Magazine, which was excellent. And, by the way, an ex-Marine. So we're going to make you do push-ups when he comes on the show, all right, D? Jonathan Bellew will be here on Friday. We'll talk about, at great length, what went down Friday. I guess it was early Friday morning when city workers removed the statue.
All right, so that was Friday. It's now Tuesday. And we still have 3 questions here involving the removal of these statues. Luckily, the mayor provided some answers. First question.
Number 1.
Why the middle of the night? That's kind of weird, right? During a Monday press briefing, the mayor explained her decision, and the following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and the one and only Fran the Woe Man Spielman. By the way, Fran, I was only kidding when I said that Tom Schuba may be coming for your title as the hardest working writer for the Sun-Times. Of course it's you. She's a big listener, Ben, and I don't want to ruffle any feathers. All right. Mayor Lori Lightfoot said on Monday she ordered 2 statues of Christopher Columbus temporarily removed in the middle of the night after receiving, quote, intelligence that gave us great concern that something bad was about to happen. The mayor refused to elaborate on the threat or the source of the intelligence that led her to believe Chicago was about to see a repeat of the ugly Grant Park confrontation between protesters and police that she claimed had been, quote, hijacked by a small group of vigilantes who came for a fight. But Lightfoot made it clear she considered the warning serious enough to warrant immediate action in the middle of the night. Lightfoot said, quote, I wanted to make sure we did it as quickly as possible. We received some information that day that raised some very serious public safety concerns. I did not want to wait. Lightfoot also argued there is no comparison to the action she took and Mayor Richard M. Daley's midnight destruction of Meigs Field on Northerly Island. Lightfoot, by contrast, said she, quote, consulted a lot of people along the way. I don't do anything in a vacuum, the mayor said. I always make sure that we're reaching out proactively to talk to a number of different folks. And I think people understand, given what happened and what was threatened, that this was about public safety. Anyone who saw the videotapes from a previous Friday night, which saw a peaceful protest hijacked by vigilantes who came there to hurt the police, but also other people got hurt in the ensuing chaos, knows better. This was about public safety, pure and simple. Ben, your thoughts?
I have many, many thoughts on this. And Meigs Field, you got to be over a certain age to remember it. It was in 2003. Richard M. Daley had just been reelected mayor, and by a decisive margin. And he had work crews, I think it was from Park District, swoop in on Meigs Field, which was an airport along the lakefront just near Soldier Field. And they carved up the runway. It was a big to-do in Chicago. People were stunned, and Fran Spielman is absolutely correct. There was no public debate. Daley had made it clear he wanted to remove the airport for a park, and there was opposition. There were people who supported the airport, and they were organizing against Daley. And Daley just said, hell with it. I just got reelected. I'm taking this thing out, ending the discussion. The part that there's some parallels, D, only an old timer would remember this, is that Daley's official justification for ripping up Meigs Field was a security one. This was 2 years after the 9/11 attack, and he said he did this to protect the loop from any potential terrorist who might take off a plane at Meigs Field and then crash it into a building. So he said he was doing it to look out for the best interests of Chicago, not unlike Mayor Lightfoot, who said she was doing it to look out for the best interests of Chicago for safety concerns. I wish he hadn't said the intelligence report, because that suggests she has spies infiltrating all these different groups. Hey, it didn't need a special intelligence report to know that there was going to be a confrontation between protesters and counter-protesters. And that as long as that statue was there, it was going to be a magnet. Now, I believe we have another story about another statue that still exists in the city of Chicago, right, D? You're going to do that story?
Yes.
So I don't want, okay, well.
Don't do that.
Don't want to step on your toes.
Thank you.
So it didn't take tremendous intelligence to know. Look, it didn't take any intelligence at all, because I said it. Oh, I said, hey, get rid of that statue, and then you won't have any more fights, at least at that site. So anyway, I that stuff about the special intelligence, I don't think she had any special intelligence. Inside intel intelligence from Secret Agent Man. That's the song, Secret Agent Man. I don't believe you had a Secret Agent Man, Lori Lightfoot, giving you intel. I think you just had common sense, maybe a good idea, get rid of that statue. And then they won't be converging there, and all our problems are solved. And I can go back to, well, I do not. I was going to say smoking a doobie, but Lori Lightfoot
I knew you were going to say smoking a doobie.
But Lori Lightfoot does not smoke a doobie. So go ahead, D.
So that's the mayor's answer to question 1. What about the second question? Number 2. What's with the temporary part? Lightfoot repeated on Monday saying, quote, I said it's temporary. The mayor went on saying, quote, what we're going to be announcing is a process by which we take stock of murals and monuments and other memorials to our past, but also that we talk about the past that hasn't been highlighted or lifted up. There's a lot of richness to our history as Chicagoans as a city that doesn't appear in any way, shape, or form of memorialization. So we don't do enough to talk about indigenous peoples here in Chicago and that long history. There's very little that memorializes and uplifts the challenges, but also the triumphs of people of color. Black, Latinx, Asian, we see very little commemorating the contributions of women in our city. This is a conversation that's long overdue, and we will have it. The mayor said she's asking, quote, art historians and other stakeholders to come together in a very specific mission, not just to look backward, but to look forward as well. Lightfoot says she, quote, understands the skepticism from protest groups that don't believe they will be treated respectfully by Chicago police. She finished out saying, quote, a number of safeguards have been put into place. Will it be perfect? Will it be incident-free? Probably not, because that's human nature.
By the way, D, I don't think I shared this with you, but as you know, I'm on the Tea Party's email list, and I get blasts pretty much 3 or 4 an hour, because it's not just the Tea Party, it's all these right-wing email, I don't know what they are, operations. And Lori Lightfoot is getting ripped by the right. I can just say that. They basically painted her out as a puppet of the left. They've called her insane. They are just so mean-spirited about Lori Lightfoot. And so when she said temporarily removing it, I think that was her way of assuring the Columbus statue lovers that it was nothing personal against the Columbus statue. She was trying to walk that fine line, as you pointed out, Dee. And so she was saying, we'll probably have that statue go somewhere. We're just not going to put it there. But it hasn't done her any good, it seems like, because the mob of right-wingers, what they're going after Lori Lightfoot, and it's so funny when I read this, D, because I'm a lefty, and Lori Lightfoot is a centrist. She is just the definition of a centrist. And if you're a legitimate lefty like me and many of our listeners, you have a lot of issues with Lori Lightfoot and her centrist views, like her attitude about TIFs and things like that. It's like, who's going to pay for the police in the school, that kind of stuff. She is by no means a leftist, but this is the Republican propaganda machine. And so every day, I got a couple today, they sent out an email blast linking Lori Lightfoot to these far left organizations. They're doing to Lori Lightfoot what they did to Barack Obama. And Barack Obama, of course, was a middle-of-the-road, Clintonian-like centrist, Democratic centrist, and they turned him in to some kind of a radical. And so I just have to shake my head, man. I guess it works. This is Republican propaganda 101. So you either turn Lori Lightfoot into a leftist, or you say she is a stooge controlled by leftists. And I think it's really unfair to Lori Lightfoot, by the way. And it's unfair to leftists.
Yeah,
but whatever.
Ben Joravsky, the only guy I know that in the same statement says he's a lefty and also gets Tea Party emails.
I don't know how it happened. I don't even get lefty T-mails. I don't get, it's funny. I only get the right-wing emails. It's like the lefties haven't figured out that I exist, or they don't send out emails. I don't know. Maybe they're so sophisticated, they all, they communicate through Instagram, D. I don't know. But I don't get any lefty emails. I just get tons of Tea Party emails. Ben. And then they're mad at me. Trump's mad at me right now, D. I didn't tell you this. Donald John Trump, bad Trump, because I haven't contributed. They keep sending me fundraising solicitations. They go, Ben, We've been sending you in solicitations for 6 months now, and you haven't responded. If you don't respond, we're going to take you off the list. I'm like, please take me off the list. Nope. They always give me one more chance. All right, one more chance.
Ben, one more chance. Help me.
All right, so in a very roundabout, wordy way, that sort of answers our second question. Now to the third and final question when it comes to the removal of the Columbus statues.
Number 3.
What about that third statue? The Sun-Times and Mitch Dudek has the story. The city's long-remaining statue honoring the controversial Italian explorer stands a bit over 7 feet tall in the middle of a far south side intersection. It's unclear if the statue has drawn the attention of protesters. The bronze figure is on a small triangular concrete pedestrian island that's surrounded by South Chicago Avenue, Exchange Avenue, and 92nd Street in the South Chicago neighborhood, a neighborhood under 10th Ward Alderwoman and dear friend of the program, Sue Sedlowski Garza. Alderwoman Garza said, quote, "It hasn't been overlooked. I'm in conversations with the city. I'm looking to take it down as soon as possible," she said, noting that she personally believes it should be replaced with a statue of a different Italian person who contributed to society. Sedlowski Garza was not surprised the statue was not caught up in recent protests, saying, quote, "There's a lot of people that never venture this far south in the city." Yeah, it's really far south, guys. It's like Indiana, basically. Then she said, "They just get on the Skyway and never come here." She's heard from a number of constituents who want the statue removed, including members of her own family.
Yeah, that is okay. Stole my favorite line. By the way, let me just say this: the Ben Joravsky Show. Speaking for everybody affiliated with the Ben Joravsky Show, which is 2 people, we love Alderwoman Sue Sedlowski Garza. Wouldn't you say that, D? We love her.
Oh, hell
very
yeah.
much. Sue Sedlowski Garza. One time, part of the reason we know how far it is, one time she invited us to her house for a barbecue. And Dennis and I and my lovely wife hopped into a car. Dennis drove, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I did.
We got lost. And but it was quite a drive going to Sue Sedlowski Garza's house. And her extended family was there. And a lot of her friends were there for this barbecue. And they were filled with lefties. Okay, a lot of lefties. I felt right at home at that barbecue. So when I saw that line in Mitch Dudek's excellent article, and it was a good article, that said she's heard from a number of constituents who wanted the statue removed, including members of her own family, I had to laugh out loud. I'm like, I'm sure those members of her family were at the top of the list she heard from. D, this article is so telling in so many ways. I think about the only thing that the crew of Columbus-loving protesters and the Columbus protesting protesters agree on is, I really don't want to have to go all the way down to 92nd Street to protest. So, yeah, we'll just pretend like that statue doesn't exist. Anyway, yeah, it's way down there, and they got that one statue, and Sue Sedlowski Garza says she's going to get rid of it. She hasn't been on the show in a while. Hey, Sue Sedlowski Garza, come on back on the show, all right?
Come on, Sue.
Come on. No, she got that new gig. She's like so busy. Ben, I'm so busy. I don't know. I just don't have time for your little show anymore. So I am just so busy, okay? I'm Sue Sedlowski Garza, and I am the chairwoman of a committee. Very, very busy. Somehow or other, I'm sliding into my Donald Trump imitation, D. I can't help myself.
Yeah,
very busy. She's very busy.
Oh, that was pretty good. That's a pretty good impression. That may be your 5th best impression. All right.
Whoa.
I know.
5th bet. Whoa.
Bill Clinton's your number 1, by the way.
I love Dr. D.
That's really good.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
What can I say, man?
And shout out to the Sedlowski Garza family. I think they all collectively mess with Ben because the whole family calls him Jaworski. The entire family. I think they're messing with you.
I love the guy. I mean, I love that family. First of all, lots of sports fans there. Raul, who's Sue's husband, huge White Sox fan, as am I. My beloved Sox didn't do so well over the weekend, but Good people, Sadlowski Garza. Ed Sadlowski, who's Sue Sadlowski's father, labor leader when I moved to Chicago, big time steel workers leader. So a lot of love for the Sadlowski Garza family, even if Sue's like, Ben, since I got this, I'm just so busy. I'm too busy.
Oh, that's a way to get her on the show. Make fun of her. Yeah, there we go.
I'm just so busy.
Yeah, and an impression, too. That double down. There we go. We'll get her in no time, buddy.
Jaworski. That's my Garza. Sue Garza. Jaworski.
All right, so that's the local news. Let's go to the live stream chat real quick. Shout out to everyone in the live stream chat room. As always, you people are awesome. If you're listening live, I dare you to join the live stream chat right now. Say what's up. Leave us a comment, and we may read it on the program. Shout out to Frank. Yes, Ben, that Frank. He is on the live stream chat. Anything you'd like to say to Frank at the moment?
I love Frank. And I appreciate everything he does for our show. God bless you. That's really heartfelt.
Frank, a little foul-mouthed on the live stream chat today, and that's okay. You can curse. He says, somehow I feel like Madigan is going to survive this shit.
Frank, you're on. I think you're on to something, Frank. Whenever we hear the Dems go, well, if the allegations are true, he's got to step down. Okay, well, I think he's going to survive it too. I think most of the state reps think he's going to survive it as well. That's why they're not following Heather Staines. Heather probably called a bunch of them up. Will you come to my press conference where I bash Madigan? I believe I am watching Dead to Me that night. Yes, can't make it. I've got to watch Dead to Me. It's on Netflix.
And guys, he's kind of funny. Also, have you been in that bathroom? Not giving that up. Brianna says, I agree, Frank. He will leave the house when they carry him out. He knows too much and can bring too many people down with him.
Yeah, you guys are onto something. I don't think anytime soon he's leaving that house. When he wants to leave, that's when he's going to leave. And he don't really care what Heather Staines says. She's in the Senate. He cares as much about Heather Staines as he does about a Republican.
Heather Staines, who cares? That's my Madigan impression. Zoom. He hates Zoom. All right.
Have you ever even heard Madigan?
No, I just see his face and I picture that's what he sounds like. Huh? What are you talking about? Give me an apple. All right. Let's see here. Oh, no. Jeff says, I don't think that he will, as he appears to be guilty. He's probably looking for a good plea deal. That's what Jeff says.
He's got a lot of lawyers. He's spending a lot of money on lawyers, by the way. Who was it? Was that Rich Miller that wrote that excellent article? I think it was Rich Miller this weekend wrote about all the money that Madigan is spending on lawyers. So,
Jim says he likes your idea. Madigan can resign when Trump resigns.
No, I'm ready to cut that deal right now. Okay, come on, let's cut the deal right now. Madigan resigns, Trump resigns, bada boom, bada bing.
Yeah, bada boom, bada bing, never going to happen. All right, everybody, so that is our local news. Coming up after this short little break, it's the return of Sergio Mims. Ben, keep these people listening. What are you planning on talking about with Sergio Mims?
Well, first of all, right off the bat, we'll talk vice president. Sergio's got some thoughts on that. We're going to talk about Trump cognitive. It's just an excuse to play this, the latest Trump cognitive thing. And I know Columbus statue. I haven't talked to Sergio since the unrest. He was on the show right before all the unrest and talk about what happened in Hyde Park. He was in Hyde Park. I think all the grocery stores were closed because of rioting and looting. So a lot to talk about. And who knows? With Sergio Mims, the sky's the limit. Nothing is. Some guests will go, Ben, don't ask me a question about fill in the blanks. Don't ask me about Dr. D. I don't want to say anything that might offend him. All right. Okay. I won't ask about Dr. D. Something like that. But Sergio's like, anything you want to talk about, I'll talk about
that
it.
bald bastard. All right. That's him talking about me. Sergio's also bald. I just realized. All right. By the way, people, you can reach us on social media at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Send us a message, give us a like, a review, whatever. Also, you can send us an email, BennyJShow@gmail.com. And we have a phone number. That's right. Haven't got that many voicemails. You should give us a call, 708-658-4788. That's right. I'm going to keep shilling this phone number, although nobody's calling it. 708-658-4788. Call the Ben Joravsky Show. Leave us a voicemail, and we'll more than likely play it. All right, now we're going to play some Michael Girardi, and when we come back, Sergio Mims. Don't go anywhere, people. It's the Ben Joravsky Show. Ben's live in his attic. I'm live in my apartment. Don't go anywhere. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Tuesday, July 28th is brought to you in part by the Illinois Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. While we wait for Sergio Mims to join our Google Meet session, we want to remind everybody that there is a part 2 of the Ben Joravsky Show. Oh, Sergio's on apparently. Sergio, are you there? There we go. Hold on. Let me admit him in here. And before, hey, we have a part 2 of today's program. Ben, remind everybody who we're going to be talking to for part 2.
Part two will be my conversation with our union boss, or my union boss, John Schlois. I'm really, it's one of my obsessions that's emerging more and more, how important it is for newspaper writers, editors, etc., to join, to collectively bargain and join unions. It's a very precarious time for my beloved newspaper industry. And I actually think that newspapers, unions could serve a very important role in stabilizing the environment in many of these newspapers. I believe the unions, came to the rescue of the Sun-Times and the Reader, and the reason they're still in existence. And I think it'll save the Tribune, ultimately, the union. So John Schlois, who's the head of the Newspaper Guild, we'll be talking to him tonight. Drop it at 7 o'clock, D.
It's available for download only, both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Sergio, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, you sound great.
You sound
Very good. Very good.
absolutely so clear. One more time, I just want to say, this Google Meet thing is really good. I'm just saying that. Sergio, Sergio was a regular on my show. As long as I've had a show, Sergio's been a guest, and he was always so generous no matter where I was. Even when I was on the far northwest side, Sergio would like 2 trains, buses, he'd schlep up there, go over to the deli across the street.
The Polish deli. Only went there once, never again.
I don't blame you. They like racially profiled you when you walked in there.
On top of that, everything was in Polish.
Oh, well, that's the least of your worries. On top of that, in addition to the racially profiling, I couldn't understand what the sign said. Anyway, and then at my beloved Sun-Times studio, which I miss so much, he would show up. In fact, you were literally the last guest at our Sun-Times studio. That Friday was the last time. I don't know if you remember that. You showed up.
Yeah, I showed up. Let's make a deal. Let me be the first guest when you come back.
I don't know when we will be coming back. I miss it, though. I miss I say this all the time, Sergio. I miss just the proximity to my guests, being able to look at my guests, that moment of joy when the guest walks into the studio and it's like, yeah, my guest is here. And so I miss it dearly. I know Dennis misses it a lot. Let's hurry up and get a vaccine for this horrific illness, and we'll be back. All right, Sergio, before we get into the political stuff, any Black Harvest updates you want to share with listeners?
Well, we're having a meeting tonight to discuss the plans. We are doing Black Harvest, but of course, with everything going on, it's going to be in a different format. It'll be streaming. And it'll be in the fall, and it's not going to be a month long as it usually is. Maybe 2-3 weeks. We're getting a lot of stuff in. I'm behind. There's a lot of stuff I got to catch up with that's been submitted. I got to start getting into that. The deadline has been extended to September 1st. Mm-hmm. So I got to start catching up on a lot of stuff that has come in. But there will be a Black Harvest Film Festival, just not in the form it's usually in. Hopefully next year, everything will be back the way it was. I will mention one thing about a virus. I'm not really looking forward to a virus, but there are all these potential treatments that look really promising. And as a matter of fact, yesterday I was reading about this UV light. Now, I know I don't sound like Trump, but please, let's hear me out.
You're heading down that road, Sergio. You're heading down that Trump road.
Wait. This is in a scientific journal. There is a form of UV light, which they have been using for years in hospitals and in prisons and in other places to kill viruses. It's a method that's been around for a long time. That looks promising. Also, this is in Politico, which is interesting. There is a tuberculosis vaccine, which has been around for 100 years. And already it's in phase 4. Not stage 3. You've been hearing all these drugs. This is in stage 3. It looks promising. There is a this tuberculosis vaccine. It's been around for 100 years. They've been trying it out. You don't even have to worry about FDA approval because the FDA approved it decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
So this was interesting. This was in Politico about 3 weeks ago.
All right.
And could it be that the vaccine we're looking for has been under our noses all the time? I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I certainly hope for it. So, by the way, before I go to politics and leave movies behind, I have to tell you, I always give you suggestions. I'm like many of the fans of Black Harvest always give you suggestions, which you're free, of course, to ignore. But last night I saw for the third time a movie that got ripped when it came out, Soul Men, with Bernie Mac and Samuel Jackson. And I love that movie so much. I've seen it 3 times. Every time I see it, I find it very endearing. Not the least of which is because it's Bernie Mac's last movie, I think, or one of his last movies, if not literally his last. At the end of Soul Men, I don't know if you remember, there's a tribute to Bernie Mac, where as the credits are rolling, they're interviewing him, and he's talking about his career and how he started off as a stand-up comic. I just hope you guys have a tribute to Bernie Mac sometime. I'm just throwing out. He's from Chicago. Chicago vocational.
That's an idea to have a tribute to him. He was a Chicago guy. By the way, I couldn't stand Soul Man.
Oh my God, it's so great.
The only thing good about Soul Man is
Yeah.
a surprise cameo appearance by Vanessa Del Rio.
Yes, very good for remembering that. She's a porno actress, I believe.
She's an adult film.
Sorry, you're right. I sit corrected.
One of the greatest.
I'm sorry. That is a funny scene with Bernie Mac early on, and I don't want to give anything away. Listen, Sergio and I don't always see eye to eye on movies. I loved Get Out. He didn't like it that much. What else did we not see eye to eye on? I'm trying to think. Actually,
I think we both agreed on Us.
Yeah, I loved Us.
Right.
Yeah.
And we both agreed on Spike's last movie.
Defy Bloods.
Right.
We by the way, we have a download. Sergio, myself, and Danielle Scruggs discussing Defy Bloods. And you can check that out some other time. Anyway, all right. So a tribute to Bernie Mac, and not necessarily Soul Men, but a tribute to Bernie Mac.
We're not going to talk about John Cass and his Eldest of Zion article.
All right, let's discuss it. I've already spent a good deal of time. Since you mentioned it, let's talk about it. At the outset of the show, I mentioned and I read the editor's note that the Tribune editor-in-chief wrote, Sergio, explaining why why nobody would be on page 2. No columnist would appear on page 2. They were moving them all to the back pages. And I had to take exception with this because I feel that all the other columnists were being sort of unfairly treated. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't write any abusive column that used anti-Semitic tropes from like the 14th century against George Soros. It was one particular columnist who did that, and so they're sending Darlene Glanton, or Mary Schmeech, Rick Hupke, Heidi Stevens. They're all going to the back pages, and I pointed that out. Did you read the column by Cass? Did you, or are you one of those people who don't read Cass columns?
Well, I don't read Cass because usually what he writes about is, Chicago be a great city. It wasn't for all those black people in it. Which is usually the tone of his pieces. The fact that he wrote something like this doesn't surprise me. He's written a lot of outrageous things before. But you're right. I think that I didn't know that. I read that they pushed him off page 2. I didn't read that they pushed everybody off.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because they don't want to single him alone. Has anybody else in the Tribune written anything as remotely controversial as articles that Cass has written? No, of course not.
Well, I would change the word controversial to offensive, because I don't have any problem with a controversial column. That's what columnists do. They raise all kinds of issues. But what you just said was so accurate. Chicago would be That is the tone of so many of John Cass articles or columns, so I don't. There was the one columnist whose name I can't recall, who wrote a column a few years back, Sergio, I'm not making this up, that said Chicago needs a Hurricane Katrina.
Oh yeah, I remember that piece.
To destroy the public schools, and I'm like. Wow, that is pretty offensive. Like a Hurricane Katrina did more than destroy the public education system of New Orleans so they can replace it with charters. It like wiped out whole neighborhoods and killed many, many people. So I found that pretty offensive as well. Don't you agree?
Right. I remember that article. It was a woman who wrote it. I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
And when I refer to the Eldest of Zion, for those of you who don't know what that is, Eldest of Zion was this book that was written in Tsarist Russia, like around the turn of the 20th century, which basically said that Jewish people were the cause of all the ills in the world. And there was this whole vast conspiracy that they were doing to take over the world. And that book, which it was all made up of lies and distortions, not even distortion, that's flat out lies. And that book went around. Was that a plane? Yeah. That book went around, and I don't know if it's actually being published still today, but it's used as the basis for anti-Semitism. Is one of the bases of the book. I mean, it was anti-Semitism before the book was written, but after the book came out, people used this as proof, right? So when you hear
proof in quotes, proof in air quotes, right?
When you always hear these attacks of George Soros, that George Soros is doing this, or he's planning that, that all goes back to Eldest of Zion. Mm-hmm. Right. So, yeah, I am not surprised that John Cass would write a piece like that. Never mind. I never read them. I don't read them. I've read things before in the past that's gotten me so angry. It's the best thing to do is just ignore him completely.
Well, here's an issue, and I'll get your thoughts on this. When John Cass wrote that column, and he talked, the theme of the column is that George Soros controls Kim Foxx. Kim Foxx is the Cook County State's attorney.
George Soros controls everything. Right?
Yeah, but in particular, he was talking about Kim Foxx. You're right, but it's like George Soros controls all these prosecutors. So any prosecutor who is saying that we should be a little less punitive in regards to criminal defense or to criminal justice issues. Just don't throw people in the jail for possession, of minor quantities of drugs or for shoplifting. Any prosecutor who does that is a puppet of George Soros. That was the theme. And you're right. It goes right back to, it's a dog whistle to people who believe in this trope about Jews controlling the world. And what was imperative for the Tribune to do at that moment, because the ADL had spoke out against it, the Forward, which is a Jewish publication, Sergio, had spoke out against it. So what was imperative for the Chicago Tribune to do was address the central issue raised in John Cass's column and assure readers that they don't support that. Or maybe Cass's point was something else other than what we thought it was. But instead, what do? They avoid the issue altogether, and they write, this move, sending all the columnists to the back pages, is not directed at any single column or single columnist, nor is it a decision taken lightly. We've been working on this structure and this prototype page for months. So, Sergio, they duck the central issue, which is the one you raised, and they leave it to readers to wonder, would they find that an acceptable column if it was on the back pages as opposed to page 2, as though location were the problem? I find that very upsetting. What about you?
Well, yeah, it is, and it doesn't make sense. And can't they fire him? You would have thought that an article like that, there have been other columnists who have written pieces. I'm not saying for the Tribune, but written other columns, controversial columns for other publications, who were fired. So they can't fire Cass?
I don't know. I do not know the answer to that question, Sergio. I don't know what the policies are. They're so far removed from firing. They won't even admit that what he wrote was like offensive.
Right.
So anyway, yeah. So all right, that's the Chicago Tribune. All right, you had sent me a text. You wanted to talk about vice presidential candidates that Joe Biden was going to select. Wasn't that you that sent me that text?
Yeah, I think I did. Right. I sure did. Right.
All right. Go ahead.
So, on your previous appearances, I've been on the show. I've been making all these predictions. Mm-hmm. All right. First is this person, then it's going to be that person, and then that person, and it's going to be that person. Okay, I'm going to make my last final prediction of who Trump is going to pick as his vice presidential candidate. There's a second person too, but I think the person is going to be, drum roll, I think it's going to be Susan Rice.
Wow, that's vastly different than I can't. Did you predict the governor of Michigan the last time we were on the show, or was that
was my first prediction? My first prediction was going to be Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah, that's
my very first prediction.
Okay.
But things change. Things change in a lot now, of course, because of the protest and the reaction to the George Floyd murder. Not situation was a murder. Things have radically changed, and I think it's very clear that Biden is going to have to pick a black presidential candidate, or my second choice, a person of color. That is, of course, Tammy Duckworth. Okay, Tammy Duckworth may be my second choice, but I think it's going to be Susan Rice. She has some disadvantages. Of course, she has really no experience in political campaigns. She's always been on the diplomatic side. Mm-hmm. How will she work as a candidate? But we're in different times now. And the situation that it is, that she really won't be going out making speeches to mass large crowds, audiences, that sort of thing. Number two, she's somebody that Biden is comfortable with. They've worked together. He knows her. She knows him. I think he'll go for somebody who he knows he can work with, not somebody who he has to learn who the person is. That's usually the case. Mm-hmm. With vice presidential candidates. The presidential nominee picks somebody who they may not particularly know or like. Kennedy and Johnson, okay? Bush and the first Bush. Bush and Quayle. Obama and Biden. Not necessarily they weren't friends. They weren't the closest of friends. They perhaps didn't even know each other, but they develop a working relationship. Here it's different. He knows her. He's worked with Rice. He knows her strengths, right? So I think it's going to be her.
Wow. And when you said Tammy Duckworth,
she adds a level of class and dignity to the office. Mm-hmm. And also she's no you remember how they used to say no drama Obama?
Yeah.
No drama with her.
All right, now you said your second choice was Tammy Duckworth. Yeah. Did you mean you would like to see him choose Tammy Duckworth, or did you think, if you were predicting, that you thought that she is the second person he would take if it wasn't Susan Rice? Are you supporting?
I mean, if for some reason it's Rice, he may go with Duckworth.
I got it. And so what's your thoughts about Tammy Duckworth as a vice president?
Tammy Duckworth also adds a lot. She's from the Midwest. She has a really compelling life story. She's a woman of color, of course, military background. She is a decorated, wounded Iraq War veteran. You can't beat that.
Yeah. By the way, and you have...
And she's a moderate.
You have been... stayed away from Kamala Harris from the get-go. I think going back to 2019, you have not been a fan of Kamala Harris. So you don't think he's going to pick her, huh?
No. Well, first of all, don't forget what she said about him during the campaign.
in the
And
debates.
as a matter of fact, when she was asked about that, like I saw an interview with her 3 weeks ago, and she was asked about that. Well, what about those statements you made about him during the campaign? You practically were comparing him to George Wallace, and she did her usual phony laugh. Oh no, that was just politics. That's what she said. That was just politics. Well, lady, if you're saying that you're just cynical and make statements like that because it's politics, then what do you really believe in? What did you really believe in? So no, and I'm sure probably some comments. I was never a fan of hers. And on top of that, she ran a lousy campaign. Yeah. One of the main reasons why she dropped out is because she didn't get black support.
Yeah, most of the black support went to Joe Biden. We talked about that.
Joe Biden. And once again, let me emphasize, there's no real enthusiasm for Joe Biden, but what he's got is he's not Trump. And number two, he's boring. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. The fact that, look, Trump has worn me out. He has worn me out. Every day there is something. Every week, like he didn't go to John Lewis's funeral. Now, you can say he wasn't asked to be there, but the fact that you have a sitting president who's not even asked to be at a funeral at John Lewis. I mean, can you imagine that? It's always something. There's always an incident. There's always drama. There's always a scandal. There's always an embarrassment. People are tired. I'm tired. You're tired. Everyone is tired.
Yeah.
We want somebody, people are looking for somebody who, at least for the next 4 years,
You mentioned the John Lewis thing, and I had our mutual friend, Sergio, just let this out. Sergio and I are friends with Monroe Anderson, who comes on here every Wednesday. And Monroe was talking about his own personal reflections of John Lewis last week. It was really interesting. I don't know if you heard it, but it was he positioned John Lewis at a phase in American history in the 1960s when Monroe was a student at University of Indiana, and John Lewis was too conciliatory in his worldview. He was more into Stokely Carmichael. John Lewis has become, since those days in the mid-1960s, a real important national figure, somebody that traditionally you would think, Sergio, that all Americans can agree was a hero. He for the cause of equal rights, he walked across a bridge into the face of troopers who slammed his head with batons. You know what I mean? He put his life on the line. And yet Donald Trump doesn't even have the dignity to pay respect to him. And I think that's part and parcel, Sergio, what you're getting at, that people are sick and tired of having a president who can't even do something, like, just because they're in opposite parties, can't show any kind of empathy or sympathy to the cause. Why do you think Donald Trump stayed away from it? In your opinion, when you look at that, why do you think Donald Trump just refused to go to pay tribute to John?
As I said, I have heard that the Lewis family asked that he would not be present. And when you're disinvited from a funeral, even if you disagree with someone, if you're disinvited from a funeral, that's not good. Okay? Now, and then I saw a reporter talk about this morning on MSNBC about why he didn't go. Another reason is that in Trump's mind, this plays to his white base. That he feels that if he appeared, I'm not even sure he even sent condolences, that somehow that would get his voters, his supporters angry, and he wouldn't go. Look, this is a president who, and this was reported in the New York Times yesterday, when he found out that Fauci threw out the first baseball at the Washington Nationals game, said, "Oh well, the owner of the Yankees is a friend of mine, and he invited me to throw out the first baseball at his game." The Yankees did not invite him.
Yeah.
There was nothing like that. This is a child, and so his team, his staff, had to somehow contact the Yankees and figure out how could they get them to invite him to come to throw out the first baseball. Of course, it all didn't work out, and then Trump said, "Oh, because of the China virus, I cannot be there because I'm so busy." Look, I can't go anywhere. I can't even go to Canada. I have a passport. I've had a passport literally since I was 3 years old. I've had a passport since I was 3 years old. And I can't go anywhere. I can't go to Europe. I can't go to all of Africa, any country in Africa except one. I can't go to Asia. I can go to Canada. And I go like, have you ever heard of a situation like that where Americans are not even invited and not even allowed to come into a country? This is, I don't look. It's only 98 days away. And to me, that's 98 days too long. He has to go. I don't mean today. He has to go yesterday.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you this. I think the last time we were on was before the looting and the rioting that took place Memorial Day weekend. And I talked to you right after that. Almost all the grocery stores in your neck of the wood had been vandalized, and they were closed. You didn't know where you were going to get your basic groceries, et cetera, and so forth. Sergio lives in Hyde Park on the south side of Chicago. So when you think about that, Sergio, and you see the ongoing disturbances in Portland, are you concerned that there will be a white backlash for Donald Trump that people are ashamed to admit to pollsters that they're going to vote for Donald Trump, but when they're in the confines of the voting booth, they'll vote for him? Are you concerned about that?
Well, that has always been a fear of mine. That was a fear of mine for a long time. I don't have that fear anymore. In terms of the situation in Portland, keep in mind, those are almost all exclusively white people who are protesting in Portland. Now, let me just clarify something. In Hyde Park, all the stores have reopened except for one. And right now it's a little iffy. And you know what? I haven't passed by it lately, so I don't even know if they're working on it. Unfortunately, two of the Walgreens in my neighborhood, there are basically three in my community. Two of them are closed. Okay, one is open. I don't know when the other two will open, but everything else is pretty much open already. I mean, it's back to normal. But in terms of going back to your question, in terms of is there a secret Trump voter? I used to think that. I'm not really that worried about it anymore. And one of the reasons why is because if you look at every poll, if you look at even just an article I was reading today, it's somewhat a microcosm. This article in which somebody went to Scranton, Pennsylvania, Biden's hometown, which is basically Democrat, but there were a lot of Trump voters there. If you read his article, people are disgusted. Even people who supported Trump the first time are simply disgusted. They're disgusted with his behavior. They're disgusted with the fact that he has done nothing in terms of this virus, which I call the Andromeda strain, or the Satan bug, if you know that picture.
Yeah.
And they had it. Like I said, like I said before, people have had it. They are tired. Now, in terms of the map, I've been figuring this out. This is why I think Trump, this could be the biggest blowout since Dukakis. I really believe that. What Dukakis was 88? This could be the biggest blowout since Dukakis. I think Biden's going to win every state on the East Coast from Virginia to Maine and Florida. And right now he's ahead of North Carolina. He doesn't need North Carolina, but he gets North Carolina. That's it. He's going to win Arizona. Arizona's guaranteed. He's going to win Arizona, Colorado, which means Cory Gardner is out. New Mexico, Nevada, and I think he's going to win Utah. I think he can actually pull off Utah.
Oh my God! If
he pulls off Utah, that's it. That's game, set, match.
Wait a minute, hold it. What are you smoking, and can I have some of it?
Sure, I'll introduce you to my dealer. So,
wait, has Utah ever gone Democrat? Maybe when Johnson ran 64.
Last time Utah voted for a Democratic candidate was Johnson in 64. I looked that up. Now, two things. First of all, Mormons, okay, in 2016, Trump got 47% of the vote. Clinton got 27% of the vote. But Ewan McMullen, who was that third party Mormon, ran as a third party, he got 22% of the vote in Utah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying that if he didn't run, all those votes would have gone to Hillary Clinton, but it would have been closer. The more Trump has never been that popular in Utah. Never, particularly not with the Mormons. They don't like him. They think he's ungodly. Okay, so I think he can pull it off. I think I think Biden's going to win all the West Coast. And not Wyoming. He's going to win all the West Coast, and then he's going to get Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, of course, Illinois. I'm not sure about Ohio. Ohio's not really a swing state.
All right, I'm just gonna say this right now.
And I think that's it.
If he wins Utah, I'm buying you breakfast at the Pancake House on 47th Street, which I've been missing so much because of the pandemic. I can't go there. Guarantee you he's not going to win Utah, but I look forward to going down there. I'll even pick up Monroe. We'll all go down there and drink.
Let me tell you something, okay? Last time someone made a food bet with me, dinner bet with me, that was Monroe Anderson. Monroe Roth. And I took them to a fancy restaurant and had one of the most expensive meals there. So go ahead. I'm going to take your bet.
All right, we're on, man. I can't wait for that. I love the Pancake House.
Of blueberry pancakes that high.
I'm gonna get the omelet and the pancakes on the side. I'm just salivating over right now. All right, let me switch gears a little bit, and I'm gonna ask Dennis to play the cognitive tape in a little bit. He's getting ready for that. I'd really love to get your thoughts on the cognitive tape, but I gotta ask you. I can't believe I haven't asked you this already. Columbus statue.
Yeah.
Were you in favor of taking it down, or are you outraged that it was taken down? What's your thoughts on the Columbus statue?
Take that statue down. Christopher Columbus, all he did was come to the land of my ancestors, Dominican Republic. He took that. He came to that country. He brought misery and. Okay, this is the history. He comes to Hispaniola. There were two Indian tribes there, the Anaraks and the Caribs, which is where we get the word Caribbean. In 100 years, there were 1 million of them. In 100 years, there were 100 left. And that was due to slavery. That was due to smallpox, which the Europeans brought, and also due to syphilis, which also the Europeans brought, which was unknown then. Okay, so they're thinking, damn, who's going to do all the work now? We've heard that in Brazil, they killed off all those Indians too, but they brought in these Africans to do the slave work, and it's worked out pretty well. Why don't we try it here? And that's how the whole ball of wax began. Yeah. So, take all those statues down, Christopher Columbus, and take down all those statues of those Confederate traitors, because they were traitors, ladies and gentlemen. They were traitors. They weren't heroes. These are people who rose up against a legitimate government to continue the practice of slavery. These are not heroes. Every single Confederate statue should be brought down. Everywhere.
I'm with you 100% on that, Sergio. I was just thought, Sergio's known for some contrarian views every now and then. Just curious, but no, I'm with you 100%. All right, D, you got that that Trump bit?
I got it. Frank wants to ask Sergio a question here. Frank's wondering, does Sergio think that Biden can carry Alabama?
No, he can't carry. Wait a minute. Monroe thinks he can.
Yes, Monroe. I got a bet with Monroe. I got two bets. Monroe, in a moment of delusion, Frank, and I think Frank probably heard it, said Biden will win Alabama. I go, Monroe, you are crazy.
Now, you see, here's the thing. You should ask Monroe what he's smoking.
Well, I know what he's smoking. I know Monroe a long time. Okay,
It's marijuana.
Monroe, no.
Monroe, I know what he's smoking. So
it must be from a different planet. Because
anyway,
I got the audio here. I got the audio. By the way, it's marijuana that he's smoking. We don't want our listeners to think anything else. All right.
Oh yeah, no, come on, yeah.
All right, Monroe. Not okay. Here we go.
Beauty test, and he said there actually is, and he named it, whatever it might be, and it was 30 or 35 questions. The first questions are very easy. The last questions are much more difficult, like a memory question. It's like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. So they say, could you repeat that? So I said, yeah. So it's person, woman, man, camera, TV. Okay, that's very good. If you get it in order, you get extra points. Okay, now he's asking you other questions, and then 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes later, they say, remember the first question? Not the first, but the 10th question? Give us that again. Can you do that again? And you go person, woman, man, camera, TV. If you get it in order, you get extra points. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy. And that's not an easy question. In other words, they ask it to you, they give you 5 names and you have to repeat them, and that's okay. If you repeat them out of order, it's okay, but you know, it's not as good. But then when you go back about 20, 25 minutes later and they say, go back to that question, they don't tell you this, go back to that question and repeat them. Can you do it? And you go, person, woman, man, camera, TV. They say, that's amazing. How did you do that? I do it because I have like a good memory, because I'm cognitively there.
Oh my God.
You know what? I have to tell you.
Yeah.
When I hear that, I always think of John Cassell's in Godfather 2, Fredo. I'm smart. People think I'm dumb, but I'm smart. You know.
That's a great scene, by the way.
Yeah, but that's what it might be, because he thinks it was an IQ test.
Yeah.
But it's not an IQ test. It's a test if you have dementia. You know, okay. But anything that makes people, he thinks it makes him look smart. And when he does that, he's so dumb. You know, as I said, I've been telling people, I really changed my opinion about Trump. I used to think he was stupid. Now I'm convinced, like, he's really, really stupid. I mean, he's really the dumbest person we've ever had as a president. We've had some dumb people, but my God, he is beyond the pale.
Now, wait, hold on. Let me ask you this. First of all, by the way, you got to see it to really appreciate it. I'm going to go on a tangent here, because he's talking to I think it's a Fox TV, their medical correspondent, and Trump's going on. He keeps coming back to person, woman, man, camera, TV, which is his exhibit A of how incredibly on top of things he is. And the doctor is looking at him with the look on his face is, I'm going to be as passive as I can, because he sounds like a raving lunatic, but I'm not going to show that, right? And I've had that moment so many times in this administration, Sergio. The most obvious to me is when Kanye West was talking to Trump. I don't know if you remember that scene. And it was Trump looking at Kanye West going, this guy is freaking crazy, but I'm not going to go there because right now he's wearing a MAGA hat. So this is moments where they're sustaining anything you believe in. And when they do that, do you think it's a sign? See, I'm not sure I agree with you that it's a sign that he's not intelligent. I think it's more or less a sign that he thinks Americans are not intelligent and that they'll fall for him. There's a difference. You see the difference?
No, he's not that good. I don't think he's that clever enough to figure that out. You know, I mean, he's a con man, but but he's not smart enough to realize that people can see through his con. You know, do you know who Sarah Cooper is?
Oh, that's who we that bit that Dennis played is actually Sarah Cooper, because
right.
We talk about her all the time in the show. Because Sarah Cooper, she does the lip singing of Trump. But if you really want to get the best audio of Donald Trump, what you do is you play a Sarah Cooper bit, and it's just, you don't see it because we can't see Sarah Cooper. So literally what Dennis just played was Sarah Cooper doing her bit.
There's another comedian by the name of Cauvin, Cauvin. He's on Twitter a lot. He does the single best impression of Trump you ever want to hear. It is amazing. It's uncanny. He also does Pence. And that's also very funny too. With the president's bold leadership, as we go through this situation, thanks to the president's bold leadership, but it's because of his bold leadership that we have. I mean, he does it so well.
Yeah. I got it here if you guys want to hear it.
Yeah, let's play it.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Oh, wait.
Right there, about that. Fake news, just got a question right. No, I will not be throwing out the first pitch on August 15th at the great Yankee Stadium, one of our great places for sports. And, you know, because we're going to be doing very strong meetings. We're having strong meetings on coronavirus, which is so important. Nobody knew, even a month ago, nobody knew how tough this thing was. Everybody thought it was going to fade away, and it turns out it is fading away. But not everywhere, not everywhere. There's some places, you know, places that love Trump, that vote for Trump, you know, that might vote for Mountain Dew and bath salts if that were on the ballot against Trump, but because they're not, they love Trump. And we've got to protect these great Americans.
Bam.
That guy is good. He's very good.
Very good.
That guy is good. He's good. That's some funny stuff. All right. We'll close with this. And Sergio, at various points, you've come on the show and talked about your issues with Twitter. You've been kicked off, I think, once or twice. I've lost count of how many times Sergio's been kicked off of Twitter. Just once?
No, only once. I'm
only
back
once. Okay.
on Twitter.
My apologies.
And a pseudonym, you know.
Oh, okay. Don't say what it is.
I can't know what it is. But my friends, they know. They know my hand. Okay?
So let me ask you this. Do you think that Twitter's heading in a good direction these days? They vowed to be more decisive in getting rid of just blatantly racist, anti-Semitic garbage, you know, whacked out conspiracy theories that are endangering the public health. Do you feel as though they're going to be a little more defensive, if you will, protective of the American people?
Okay, number one, every little bit helps. Okay, number one. Number two, how can that be if they still allow Trump to tweet whatever he wants? Okay, it's number two. Number three, keep in mind, folks, I was banned not because, of course, I didn't say anything sexist or racist. I criticized a movie, okay? And some people had some objection. Evidently, they got a lot of objections about this movie that I criticized. So I still, and since then, I will admit that it makes me a little tenuous at times when I post something, if I want to go after somebody, because like, oh, brother, what would happen if I post this? But so far, so good. But still, there's still a lot of work for Twitter to get its act together. Okay. Now I know was it Facebook that recently threw out a lot of these QAnon people. Once again, it's a step in the right direction. But once again, there's still some things that Facebook can do to improve what they're doing. I know one of the reasons why they did it is because a lot of advertisers have been leaving Facebook because they have been upset about what's been going on there, which brings up the question, how is it that, who's that guy on Fox? Tucker Carlson is still on Fox when he probably can't get advertising anymore? I don't know how Fox is making money off of him because he's been bleeding advertisers like crazy. So, once again, a step in the right direction. Now, if the Tribune can just get rid of John Cass.
Well, they're not following your advice on that. They're simply moving him to the back pages. All right, Sergio, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always a blast talking to you. If anybody wants any information about Black Harvest Film Festival, what should they do? Where should they go?
Go to the Gene Siskel website, which is Siskel, Siskel, SiskelFilmCenter.org. And more information will be up to date on the festival. As I said before, you won't find anything right now because we did extend our submission date until September 1st. Usually it's the first weekend in June, but we moved it back to September 1st. So after that date, you'll be seeing more news festival and the dates and the films we're showing. And as I said before, it's not perfect, but we still had to make some kind of presence this year. And hopefully, keep your fingers crossed, we'll be back in full force as normal next year.
I got my fingers crossed. All right. Thank you very much, Sergio Mims. And always appreciate when you come on the show. And I love that prediction about Biden winning Utah. And I'm really looking forward to my pancakes at the pancake house because that ain't happening. All right, DB, before we head out the door, any updates you want to offer us?
Thanks to Frank, by the way, on the live stream chat. He reminded us that Monroe also predicted that Trump would win Mississippi.
Oh, fucking Trump's. Monroe, I love you. You're a dear friend, but good God. That ain't happening either. Oh God! All
right, we do have an update here. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and the second hardest working writer in the building. Yes, it's Tommy Two Joints, Tom Schuba.
Tommy Two Joints.
The headline reads: as new pot licenses delayed indefinitely, global accounting firm pockets $7 million from state to rank applicants. When the operators of Illinois' medical marijuana businesses were given first crack at growing and selling recreational weed in the state, everyone else looking to break into the new industry was forced to wait months to even pay for licenses. They then saw their prospects put on hold when the COVID-19 pandemic brought everything to a halt. Meanwhile, one company that doesn't even deal in cannabis has profited handsomely in that time. KPMG, a quote, Big Four accounting firm based in the Netherlands with nearly $30 billion in revenues last year, was awarded nearly $7 million in no-bid contracts to grade applications for new recreational pot licenses, and this is according to records obtained by the Chicago Sun-Times. KPMG is getting nearly $4.2 million through a contract with the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, which oversees dispensaries, and $2.5 million from the Illinois Department of Agriculture, which is tasked with regulating cultivation operations and other cannabis business. The payments to the firm amount to more than 12% of the state's $52.8 million in cannabis tax revenues during the first 6 months of recreational legalization. State officials didn't open up the contracts to competitive bidding to speed up the process, but as it turned out, the delay in issuing 75 licenses to run pot dispensaries came in part because of a travel ban KPMG instituted in the wake of the COVID-19 outbreak, and a provision in its contract with the state requiring the applications be picked up by hand.
Yeah, Tommy Schuba, good job with this story. Very frustrating. As everybody knows, this is our show. We have many Black entrepreneurs come on the show talking about how they've been locked out of this market, how they're waiting to get a license. It's really frustrating. And I was reading Tommy's article today and thinking, I mean, this accounting firm is getting $7 million before a black-owned dispensary gets a license. And if you recall, part of the motivation, at least from my perspective, for legalizing reefer in this state was you wanted to reform the criminal justice system. You wanted to end this insane war on drugs, and you wanted to have some fairness and equity. So come on, state of Illinois, let's get this thing settled. I know my dear friend, Toy Hutchinson, she's quoted in the article, and she's Pritzker's appointee overseeing this. Toy, you know I love you dearly, but come on. Let's get these licenses out there, get a little equity in the state of Illinois when it comes to legalized reefer.
And hey, Toy, come on the show sometime again. My goodness, we haven't had her on in almost like a year, right?
No, we haven't. Toy hasn't been on since she got the new gig. Okay, she came on all the time as a state senator, and she's a great guest, by the way. She should have her own radio show. That's a whole other story. But maybe when she's done with this gig, she'll have her own radio show.
Now that we do Google Meet, maybe we can get her on from the convenience of her own house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that could be a possibility.
We got one more update here. Let's see here. The following comes from the Chicago Tribune, but I found it from the meanest Illinois political bulldog in the yard, the one, the only, Rich Miller. A Madigan Gate update here. The headline reads, despite ComEd's deferred prosecution agreement, attorney says company would plead not guilty if need be. ComEd made its first court appearance today since being hit with the bombshell federal bribery charges involving Mike Madigan's political operation. And if all goes as planned, it may be one of the company's last. In a brief hearing at the Dirksen U.S. Courthouse, prosecutors and lawyers for ComEd agreed that a formal arrangement next week, the company would not have to return to court until 2023, when a 3-year deferred prosecution agreement with the government is set to expire. Assistant U.S. Attorney Amarjeet Basu, probably butchered that, told the judge that due to the deferred prosecution agreement, ComEd does not have to enter a plea at its August 5th arrangement. This is from Reed Shar, the lead attorney for ComEd. And Reed Shar also said if the company did enter a plea, it would be not guilty.
Yeah, all right. That's part of the deal they caught, but they're still kicking in $200 million. So listen, they admit they did X, Y, Z. They put it out there. They stipulated it, and they say they're paying $200 million. All this is other stuff is like technicalities, and Democrats should do the right thing and move on, in my humble opinion, from the Michael Joseph. And I say this with a lot of gratitude and appreciation for Michael Madigan standing up for collective bargaining rights during the Rauner years, but this has gone too far, D. Come on, Democrats. It's time to move on.
All right. Well, that's our show today, everybody. We appreciate everyone for listening. Live stream chat. You guys are awesome. As always, if you're downloading, keep downloading. And be sure to download our part 2 tonight. It's going to be available by 7 p.m. Ben, who's on there again?
John Schlois will be there from the Newspaper Guild. So,
all right. It's going to be awesome. Both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites. Chicago Reader and Chicago Sun-Times websites, and wherever else you download your favorite podcasts. It looks like our friend Persnickety on the live stream chat is getting a little worried. He says, man, if things get too bad here in Illinois, I'm moving into the porta potty by Ben's house and eating leftover pancakes. Because you talk about pancakes all the time. You're always betting people pancakes.
I'm hungry, man.
All right.
That porta potty's been pretty busy the last couple days. So
that is disgusting. All right. And be sure to follow us at Benny J Show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com, BENNY, the letter J Show. And hey, you can leave us a voicemail if you'd like. That's right. We have a phone number. Apparently all the 773 and 312 numbers were taken because we have a 708 number, 708-658-4788. That number again, 708-658-4788. We'll see everybody on Wednesday.
All right. I want to thank Sergio Mims for doing an outstanding job. Black Harvest Film Festival. And, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom this show would be possible. And as Sergio Mims can tell you, back home in Alton, they call him Dennis. Keep yourself a raise. Take it out in petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
The enemy is you.
I won't just turn the car around. I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to kick you out, and I'm going to make you walk home.
number 2.
Let's begin with phase 1.
I don't want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think.